Good luck to you.
Yeah, we'll focus on, so, and I say this to police, if somebody bends down and picks up a pen and throws it at their back, it's not the pen that threw it at their back. And it's also generally not like getting adjusted that send that person into pain. There's an actual cause here. And so if I take an image, if I take an X-ray, and I just look at that doesn't tell me, that tells me what that person looks like statically. They're not moving, we're built to move. And so I do a very specific, a very in-depth physical exam where we look and see, okay, so how's your core stability? So are you able to brace? Are you able to provide the support for that lumbar spine that you're supposed to? And if you're not, then how is that affecting that lumbar spine? And then is movement going to affect that? And so we're able to.
Which comes back to, you said, the educational piece quite a bit.
Yeah, and so then I tell them, I was like, so this is what, I know that, mowing the lawn this weekend really hurt you, but everybody mows the lawn and not very many people come in because they mow the lawn. So why are you different? Why did this go in? So, and then I kind of show them, I was like, okay, so, we're a little bit weak here. Or you see how you can't get to this range of motion. So for example, if I have somebody try to reach down and touch their toes, and then they can't do it, and then I take away the stability, so instead of them having to provide any type of stability, I stabilize them and do it myself passively, and I can get them through that range of motion. Then that tells me, well, what have I taken out of the equation? I'm taking stability out of the equation, and they're able to do it. So when they have to provide their own stability, they can't do that. So we're now looking at a stability issue. If I still can't get them to the range of motion, then that's something like a short muscle.
Yeah.
That's something that's structural. So we have to then address that.
So you're not just seeing somebody, oh gosh, they got a stiff back.
Yeah.
Let's pop them. It's, you got some muscle tension here, so let's figure that out.
Yeah, and then usually stiff backs, it's not just the stiff back. It's something else, and that's why it's just a little bit different. So we,
Do you ever find that it's like a challenge in your profession is that many chiropractors are so different? Is that ever a challenge?
Yes, absolutely. Because people come in and they're just like, people will come in and they're like, well, my last chiropractor, blah, 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 but did this, and this, and I actually made a meme about it. Do you remember, I can't remember what movie it was.
We've got a good friend of ours that, he flat told us, he said, I will never go to a chiropractor again.
Yeah. I can't, what movie is that from?
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and the pirates. Yeah, and the pirate goes, look at me.
Yeah.
I am the captain now. And so I made the meme says, look at me. I am the chiropractic now. And because I got, I even tried downtown here when I was looking at another building, I submitted build-out plans, and the manager did not submit my build-out plans to the owner because she didn't think that's what my practice needed to look like. And that's because her chiropractor did it differently. And I said, well, no, I don't want that. I want private rooms.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
All right.
Yeah,
Is there any?
like I was telling you about the friend of ours. Oh, yep.
I'm gonna switch you over.
Hello, and welcome to 1 Million Cups Joplin. My name is JD Buckridge. I'm one of the organizers here today, and we are excited to kick off this virtual meeting for you today. We hope that you're tuning in. We want you to do us a favor. Hit the like and hit the share. Make sure you share this to your page and you share it to your stories as well. We want to spread the wealth and knowledge about 1 Million Cups in Joplin, what's happening and why we're doing this. Let me tell you just a little bit of a backstory about why we do what we do. I'm sure some of you at this point may be aware that 1 Million Cups is an organization that is sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City, Missouri, which some of you may be familiar with the name Kauffman. It's the Kansas City Royals. This is their philanthropic effort, and the reason it's called 1 Million Cups is currently right now at 9 a.m. and whatever time zone you're in, there are 1 million cups of coffee being had. Isn't that exciting that you get to be a part of that right now? And I'm very excited today to bring to you the opportunity to bring this to Joplin, Missouri, along with our many of our other organizers as well. We also want to take an opportunity to thank many of our sponsors. We've got some great sponsors who's helped make this happen right here in Joplin, Missouri. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Southwest Missouri Bank, who is so gracious to partner with us to provide the opportunity to broadcast to you virtually live right now. We also want to thank the Joplin Public Library Gina and her entire team have been so gracious to be a part of the organizing committee from start to finish, and they're going to continue to be a great part and an asset to 1 Million Cups as we build our entrepreneurial efforts right here in Joplin, Missouri. Not only that, but we want to thank Mike Wiggins and Granny Schaefer's. Mike has been so gracious every week to provide to us our coffee for 1 Million Cups. So the cups of coffee we have, we are caffeinated. Thank you, Mike and Granny Schaefer's. We would not be caffeinated without you today. We have a lot of great opportunities for presenters, so if you're interested in presenting, please do us a favor. Just hit that little message bar and send Aaron and Alyssa a message and let them know we would like to present. If you would like to present, please let us know. We're always looking for great presenters. And without further ado, we have a great presenter today that comes to us from Joplin, Missouri. I'm very pleased to announce to you a very new business that's thriving and alive, but you know what? He's coming to you, going to ask you for some help today. So be ready to chime in. The comment bar will be open. So Aaron is right now monitoring the keyboard, and if you've got some questions for Dr. Jones today, please make it a point to ask some questions throughout the entirety of the presentation. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to open up for an open forum panel discussion. So without further ado, with Active Health Chiropractic, please welcome Dr. Austin Jones. Welcome today.
Thank you. As said, I'm Dr. Austin Jones. For Active Health Chiropractic, we opened in October of last year, and we've been growing ever since. It's been an amazing journey so far. Let's go on to the next slide here. Sorry, the clicker's not working this morning, so you'll hear me say next slide and everything, so I apologize for that. So yeah, and so this is just a little bit about me. I already mentioned that we opened in October of 2020. And we've been growing ever since. It's been an amazing journey. It's been, I walk in every day and I'm still amazed that, hey, this is what I'm doing. And it's very stereotypical and kind of corny when we always hear somebody say, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it really is true. I open the doors to my practice and I sit there and it's just an amazing feeling to know that, I'm doing something that I truly love doing. And I grew up in Carthage. My wife grew up in Joplin, and so coming home has just been an amazing opportunity for us. And so, we talked about a little bit about my business here, and this is just a quick introduction. Why do people trust us, and what makes us a little different? We were talking about this before, and so we really look for the cause of the pain. And so when I see somebody and say, I always use this analogy: if somebody reached down, dropped their keys, dropped a pen, went down to pick it up, and they threw their back out, they locked the back up. That's generally not the keys or the pen's fault. There's something else that's causing that. Say it's a lack of core stability over time, or some type of movements that just weren't healthy that they've been using, or they've been moving in an unnatural way to compensate for something, and that causes some long-term issues. So we try to find that cause and then treat that cause, and what we see is that when we combine that with exercise and educating that patient about why they actually got injured, recovery times have decreased significantly, which is good. As a matter of fact, as of last month, I was looking at the recovery times, and we're sitting about half of the national average, which there's research out there that says that as well. And so, science kind of wins again in this case, and we've been able to continue doing that. And so I think that's one reason why we're growing so much, is that, we're just a little bit different. Now, so, down to the business side of things, we have a few goals, and so open the practice. That was really the first thing that I really wanted to do. Open my practice, start seeing patients, and that started in October of 2020. As a matter of fact, I saw my first patient a few weeks before then, but where our official hard open was October 1st, and then establish practice management systems, and that's kind of something that's ongoing, and I think that's something that needs to continue to go, especially with any business. As you create your systems, as you create your daily flow, you see what works and what doesn't, and then as you grow, you hire new people, and then sometimes as you hire and you grow, what used to work didn't work or won't work now, and so you have to change that. And so that's something that I'm constantly trying to do, and right now we're implementing insurance. And so I'm having to change some of the flow, especially like patients. How do I get that insurance information into the system, and how do I verify that insurance while they're there, and do that in a timely fashion? Because I want to be able to spend quality time with each person. So, and me just talking about insurance with them is definitely not quality time. in my mind. But then, so gain in-network status with major insurances. So, that's actually been a struggle of ours as well. I applied in October to be in network with most insurances, and if any of you have dealt with health insurance, it's a long process. And so I was able to get in network with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Medicare was actually the easiest, and I mean, we could laugh about that all day long. But then the other insurances I had to reapply, not because we got denied, but just because applications got lost in the system with people working from home and things like that. It's just been a little bit more of a struggle and timely. So we're still working on that. So we're hoping by June I want to be in network with most. And so I've been making goals every week to call them and annoy them so that maybe my application stays up on top. So then a reliable patient base. So as a chiropractic office, we always talk about patient base. And my office is a little bit different since we always focus on releasing the patient back to an activity, back to doing the things that they love, and so that they're not dependent on us. But building that patient base from referrals, and we want most of our patients to come from referrals because they're automatically coming in with a positive idea of who I am and what I do because they've heard it from somebody that they trust. So there's automatically some trust built in there. And then also marketing. And so, there's always that group of people out there because I think chiropractic, people that see a chiropractor, if we look at the population, it's actually only about 15% of the population. There's a large group of the population that has either, doesn't trust chiropractors or has never been, and most of those, it's just a misunderstanding of what we can do. And so, marketing plays a big role in that and kind of building that story from the beginning and saying this is somebody that you can trust. And that's ongoing. And we're going to talk more about that today. And so meet 100% of overhead. So, since March, I was talking about them. I've actually been able to pay all of my business expenses minus the salary since the month that we opened. So every month we've been able to pay for the rent, pay for everything else without having to go into debt, and that's been one of the most amazing things so far. And then since March as well, I've actually been able to pay myself a little bit of a salary, which is good too. So my family does appreciate that, and then the very last thing we have here, or hire an assistant or billing specialist. So as I grow, one of the big things that I think is important is figuring out what I love doing, and then figuring out what I don't love so much about my business. And I think that some of you may have noticed that one of the pretty much negative things I talked about here was insurance. I do not like billing insurance. However, it is a necessity, and so that's one of the things that I want to do by the end of this year, or maybe this time next year, is hire an assistant or a billing specialist and train them and so that somebody that does enjoy that stuff, and then that way I can focus on doing what I do best and doing what I love, which is helping people, interacting with patients, and spending quality time with them instead of a computer between us and them. So the new patient source, really almost 90% of my new patients, they are coming from patient referrals. So one of the things that I've made sure that I'm doing is, as a new patient comes in or as I'm releasing a patient, I make sure that I ask for referrals. I say, hey, you know what, you've seen that I'm a little bit different from the ones you've been in the past, and you've gotten a lot better. And so if you know anybody that needs any help, or you think that I might be able to help, I appreciate you sending my way. And I give them about 5 business cards and send them out there. And that's been a very good source of patients. And as a matter of fact, then when they come back in, I make sure I look that patient right in the eye and I say, hey, I really appreciate you trusting me with your patient, with your family's care, or with your loved one's care, or with your friend's care, and saying good things about me. I really do appreciate that. And so it's been a really good source as far as building trust in the community. And yeah, we just opened in October, but I felt like people come in, especially when they come in from these other patients, they already trust me. They already have, oh, I've heard so many good things about you. So-and-so talks about you all the time, and then I heard this and I've seen this. And so that's great, but there's other sources of patients out there. Like I said, that's 15% of the population sees a chiropractor now, or any other type of conservative care, and that means, you know, we have 85% of the population that isn't seeing a chiropractor, and we know that, you know, in our lifetime, over 80% of the world population will have back pain at some point. So, and you know, so the numbers, there's a lot of people out there that I can still help, and help in a very efficient way. And so we have the Google searches have actually started to come up, and I think that's because I've been putting content on the website regularly and trying to boost some SEO stuff on my own. And then there's a small increase in patients because I have gained in-network status with Blue Cross Blue Shield, so I'm seeing them search their platforms for practitioners in the area. So then there's also the social media aspect. We've been working with some of the local social media influencers, and they've been helping us out a lot, and made some really great friends. And so when we post and we tag them, or they're in the office and they tag, a lot of their friends see that, followers see that, and then so I've seen an increase over the last few months of people that said, hey, I saw so-and-so's post on Instagram. And then kind of what we already said, you know, there's this large group of patients that are unreached due to, well, I've just had limited success with advertising. I quit advertising actually, except for what I'm contracted to advertise, in December. So, you know, it's been a struggle. So, yeah, we do have problems with advertising, and I think that's mainly because, you know, as a chiropractor, I'm trained to triage pain and find the source of the pain and treat that. Doctors, chiropractors, all of them alike are pretty much, you know, we're trained to do these things, but we're not trained to run a business, and we're notorious for being bad businessmen. And I'd like to think I'm a little bit of a hybrid there, but still. So, you know, let's get back to this here. So the main source of patients, you know, from referrals, but we don't want that to be the only source. That, you know, there's a large portion of the population out there that's still not being touched. And so I said, you know, we've increased with social media, but the social media advertising, so Facebook, Instagram, ads on there, and then the local advertising, I've had very limited success. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've pulled any patients in from there. And then, you know, the third-party content creators, I think that might have helped in some ways with boosting my page up to the top. However, we still don't get a lot from that. And I never hear somebody come in and say, well, I saw your ad. And that's unfortunate, because that's a significant amount of money that we were spending and just not getting a return on. And so that's really been the problem there. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it there. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Sorry.
While Aaron's checking with that, we talked about one of the things that makes you different. The question I asked you before we started the interview today was, is it a challenge for you being there? There's so many chiropractors in the 4 states, and they all seem to be very different. Mm-hmm. Is that a challenge? And go ahead and answer the question why that's a challenge.
Well, yeah, it is a challenge. Doctors of Chiropractic, we have a very broad scope of practice. In the 4-state area, it's a very unique area too, because we're bound by state law. And so now we have the 4 states that all have different laws on how we can practice. And we have a very broad scope of practice anyway, from from doing things that you would think would only be done in a primary care office to things that you wouldn't even think of. So when people come into the office, I always hear, well, my last chiropractor did this and this. Well, and it's part of breaking that cycle of, and when I'm talking about building dependence on themselves, mm-hmm. and they're not dependent on me, and a lot of times people haven't heard that.
Yes.
And so I have to spend a lot of time educating my patients and saying, well, you know what, this is how the body works, and this is why we do it this way.
You said the long-term goal is not to keep them coming back time and time and time again. You want to release them back home.
Yeah, and that's because one of my pet peeves when I was in school was, and having family members go, and they get stuck going into the cycle of every week, and then I would have friends that would love to go see, you know, either a PT or a chiropractor or other conservative care doctors, and they won't, because they say, well, I would love to go to a chiropractor, but I don't want to get stuck going every week for the rest of my life.
Right.
And that doesn't have to be the case. That there's better ways to do it. And what I found is if we really search for the source of the pain and treat that, we have better results. And
Absolutely.
so people don't have to be dependent on me. If I can teach them little things that they can do so that they manage the pain at home, and they don't need me every week, or they don't need me every other week, say they come in once a month at that point, well, that's still better than what it was.
Yeah, very good.
So, yeah.
Okay, so questions and comments,
So,
Aaron?
yeah, can you share your pricing model and how long it takes to get in for an appointment?
Yeah, so right now I'm probably about 25% full as far as what I can manage on my own. And so my pricing model depends on, there's a few different ways to go about this, but a new patient exam is $75. I will generally treat, I'll treat on the first visit, and I won't charge for that, the first treatment, but so $75 for the first visit, and then after that it's $45, and that's for the adjustment. Now if we're doing other things, so therapeutic ultrasound, E-stem, acupuncture, dry needling, and those types of things, then I have to start charging a different amount. So for example, like ultrasound with E-stem as a combination, that's $25 for that code, and that's what I will bill insurance. And then acupuncture, we're just focusing on acupuncture, then it's $55.
Super. Aaron?
And then, can you fill initial paperwork and schedule an appointment online?
Yes, so from our website, there's a schedule now button, and it'll take you directly to our scheduling software, initial paperwork, so you'll fill out, name, address, all of that stuff. I still, we haven't had them be able to fill out insurance information yet, and that's just not part of the software. However, if they fill out all that stuff online prior, and then just adding in the insurance takes a matter of 10 minutes at the visit. So it does help out a lot. So when somebody schedules online, they'll go through all the personal information, but then they also add in what's bothering them. And they pretty much, when I go through and I'm questioning them, getting a history of what's going on and when it happened, how it happened, and like the who, what, when, where type of stuff, then that's pretty much already done. And so I just review it really quickly with them, and it saves a lot of time.
And what's the website domain?
So it's www.acthealthchiro.com.
Acthealthchiro.com.
Yep, so Active Health, and so they didn't have Active Health Chiropractic.com, and that was pretty long, so we did ACT, so ACT Health Chiro.
Very good.
After clients are better, do you have a maintenance program that you send home with them?
So I send them home with, I use a program, it's a website called Chiro Up, and it allows exercise programming, and so I can send them home, and they have a login and a password, and they'll see videos of exercises that I've assigned. And so, for example, I had a patient call me, and she said, well, you know what, I'm feeling a lot better, I just really don't think I need to come in. And I can disagree, but I'm not going to force a patient to come back in. And so, well, you know what, let me update your exercises, and then if you have any questions, let me know. So yeah, when I send somebody home, I don't really sign them up for a program per se, as far as, hey, I want you to come back once a month. I leave it up to them. If they want it, because every person is different and every body is different. So if you do these exercises, if you're managing your pain, great. And if you just want to come in to get adjusted, every once in a while, that's a great idea as well. But some people, they'll come in once every other month. Some people will come in once every 6 months. And, but I just don't want them to be dependent on me for that.
So, as far as some of your practice, I know a lot of athletes do a lot of compounding workouts that are hard on their body, and kids do too. Do you offer any type of, adjustments or services for children? Because I know my child, who's a gymnast, they recommend her being adjusted because of growth spurts and...
Yeah, so I'm very motion based, and as far as research goes, there's not a lot of research out there with children in chiropractic care. There's some decent stuff out there, but there's just not a lot. However, yeah, children can be adjusted, and it's very safe. It's different than how you would see me adjusting an adult, because you have to change that. You can't just adjust a child like you would an adult. You'd break them. But yeah, children can be adjusted, and it looks very different from how you would adjust an adult, depending on the age. And it does help significantly. Well, obviously my kids, I have 2 children, 10 and 12, and they've been adjusted as they go. And they, I don't adjust them very much anymore, but I do when they need it.
How young can you adjust?
So it depends on the chiropractor. So there's a few in town that specialize in pregnancy and children, and they will adjust. They'll adjust from pretty much a few days to a few weeks old on up. I will see pregnancy patients up until the day before their delivery, sometimes just to keep them comfortable.
And will you do newborns as well?
I generally don't, unless there's an actual issue. And what we can see is sometimes that you can help with latching or colicky type issues or digestive issues, and just with some very slight movements, and then some like abdominal massage and stuff like that, which are also some things that parents can do from home. And so it's more about teaching the parents of some simple things that they can do from home to keep that baby comfortable.
That's great.
So generally I don't see newborns, but if somebody does have an issue, I will. It's just, and that's more about, me educating the parent of, these are some simple things that you can do at home, and these are the red flags. So if you see these red flags, either, call your pediatrician, go to the ER, things like that.
Do you take x-rays?
So I do, but not in my office. So about 9 out of 10 people do not get x-rays that come through my door. And I do that for a reason, mainly because an x-ray is an excellent tool. I love reading x-rays and I love looking at them. However, we are built to be in motion. And it's kind of like, I take this as, so if you have a baseball card, if you have a baseball card without any stats on it, you just have a picture of the pitcher. And what do you know about him from that picture? The answer is you really don't know. You might know what team he's on, what number he is, you probably know he's a pitcher, and he's professional, so he's probably pretty decent. But how does he move? And the same thing goes with us. X-ray is a static image, and it can show us, it's great for ruling out a lot of pathologies, red flags, and dangerous things, but also a good history and a good physical exam does a better job at doing that. And a good physical exam, which involves movement, is going to pinpoint more of what is actually causing that pain or what tissues are causing that pain than what would show up on an x-ray. So if somebody, when do I get an x-ray? Well, if they show any red flags or things that might be dangerous. So in their history, they have a history of cancer, they have a history of trauma, they've fallen, the onset of the pain, what is the nature of pain, and things that would like raise these red flags in my head and say, okay, no, there's something else going on. Then we would go for imaging. And that happens, about one out of every 10 patients that comes through, I write a referral for imaging, they go get imaging, and they come back through the door. But also, if we've gone through a round of treatment, so say we've gone through what I call a trial of care, and I see no improvement after a certain number of weeks, then I say, okay, you know what, it's time to get some imaging. And so as long as that patient isn't at risk for anything, generally it doesn't change my treatment. It just confirms a diagnosis. And so I make sure that I do a very good physical exam and a history to make sure that it's safe to adjust that patient.
Since you've almost stopped all advertising for your business, what are your plans for this in the future? I'm horrible at advertising. But I've reached out to a few, gurus, and not so much locally, but some friends and some friends of friends and contacts that I've had to talk to them a little bit about it and kind of start to come up with some plans for that. So we're going to start, we've noticed that with the content creator that we've been using on Instagram and things like that, you know what, that's nice, they post some good stuff, but what really gets the views and the likes is the personalized things, the things where I'm in there, where my wife's in there, where we have that. So we want to start boosting the stuff on Instagram and Facebook and also TikTok and start doing stuff like that. But as far as advertisements go, I'm really at a loss as far as local advertising, what I can do or how to best do that to get
to get people in the door. So so I went through it, and like we've had the call to action, we've had the offer, and it's just a very concise, simple message with that call to action and offer, and with very limited success. And so I think, as we start to pick up a little bit more, as our influence and our followers increase, that we may try for some limited social media advertising again, or any suggestions that come from this,
Yeah.
I
Have you,
really don't have a plan, I guess, for that.
a lot of it now is telling the buyer story
Mhm.
and their experience with your brand. Have you, do you have any relationships with your patients to where maybe you can use some of those stories or collect that information to talk about how they've benefited from your services in your practice?
Right. So right now that's been something that's actually part of that plan. Or I guess what I said, we didn't have a plan, but I guess we do, because that's something that we've talked about is doing the testimonials. And so I've been to XYZ, and this is what I have going on, and I never had help really until I went and saw Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
Those types of things. And on Google, I have patients that have been really good about leaving Google reviews. I have the ability to automatically send links out to them for a Google review, and it's been pretty beneficial so far. But actual video testimonials are something that we have on the books to start, and then use that in our advertising. And that was actually brought up by somebody too, was have you tried short videos for your advertising? And I think that too is one of the, doing the reels on Instagram, is I can take that and turn that into an ad, and that's something that we're going to start trying.
We talked a little bit about some of the offline opportunities like area chambers of commerce, Rotary.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you plugged in now, and what do you need help from with those chambers or Rotary?
So we talked about this earlier. So before we got on here, yeah. So I'm a member of the Joplin Chamber of Commerce. I participate in the Leads group and a few other groups, and then I'll participate in the Rotary Club, the midday one, not the early one. I couldn't get up that early for that, but the Rotary Club was more for about being involved in the community, being involved in charitable events and things like that. And so, and for us, really, it's figuring out my advertising.
Sure.
Figuring out, what's the best way to approach this? How can I reach that other 85% of the population, that doesn't see the chiropractor? And so that not only am I pulling patients from my current ones, but I'm also having new people that have that, that haven't. There's a lot.
You kind of mentioned to me earlier where your current patient number is per week average now.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage you to really plug in a greater way to the Joplin Chamber, maybe some of the surrounding chambers, some other surrounding civic groups, because if you were just to double that number that you gave me, which I believe is very realistic by person-to-person contact, things like the Morning Brew, which is actually coming up next week, the Morning Brew, Business After Hours, there's a larger population of people groups, and then find that linchpin person in the room that knows a lot of other people to make introductions for you, and continue that unique selling point. My unique selling point is, I want to make people better, and that doesn't mean you have to keep coming to see me 3 and 4 times a week to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to separate you. So
Yeah.
What's your client, your patient base look like, demographic wise? Are they active, or is it just a mix of everything?
Right. So this is something that, now with my logo, it's a guy running, right, or a woman running, or what have you. But activity is not just running. It's not just sports. It's gardening. It's doing lawns. It's playing with your grandkids. It's going around for walks, and maybe it's even getting, only being able to walk down the driveway to the mailbox and back without pain. And so I see a very broad range of patients, but generally we're looking at middle-aged So anywhere between young, middle-aged, so like 25, 20, all the way up to, I think, 75 is the maximum age that I'm seeing right now. So it's, and I guess there's a few teenagers and some young teenagers in there too, but that's more of a few because I really don't advertise with that. But yeah, so generally, yeah, somebody that, I don't really care about the age, but I just care that they want to take an active role in their health, that they want to be active, that they want to be better, that they're missing that. They're missing those walks around the block. They're missing walking the dogs. They want to be able to play with their grandkids, or they want to be able to even run a marathon.
Right, sure.
So, it's not so much that, and I know that's very broad, and that's not usually what we want in marketing, but that's somebody that wants to do better and wants to have an active role in that.
You mentioned advertising and working with social media influencers, and so one popular trend with working with social media influencers, I don't know if you've even thought about this, is trading services, where you take an influencer that has 10,000 organic followers, and if I post, hey, I'm at Dr. Jones' office today, I feel so great, that immediately I'm going to get 100 likes out of that, and I'm going to get people liking and sharing your page from my post. Have you looked more into offering those services at no charge to those influencers?
I'm glad you asked that, because when we asked about plans for that, I didn't think I had a plan, but I'm starting to think that we do, because that we actually started doing that. So like last night yesterday, my wife and I were talking at lunch about some of the acupuncture dry needling stuff, and that's something that some around the area do, but not very many, and so that's something that I offer that not very many know about.
There's not a lot of acupuncture around here.
So yeah, we put out a message into a group chat that said, hey, would anybody basically exchange? So let us post on Instagram, tag you, and just to give it a try for free. And we had a lot of people come back with it and say that. So yeah, that's something that we started talking about.
But I would say definitely look for true influencers. People that have a large public audience on a local scale.
Yeah.
Those people that they've got their Facebook friends book list is maxed out. Their Instagram's got a couple thousand, and a lot of those are local.
Yeah.
That's really what you'd be looking for.
And that's the problem is a lot of times is finding. Yeah, somebody may have 12,000 followers. Somebody may have 20,000 followers, but how many of them are in Canada?
Right,
how many
absolutely.
of them are and all over the country? But they only have a couple hundred.
I would say don't be afraid to ask them. If you start those conversations, don't be afraid to ask. Hey, how many of your Facebook followers are local? So if they've got 5,000, okay, how many of them are local? Do you have at least 1,000 that are local? Because if you can get just 10% of that 1,000 to follow that post, that's 100. If you just pick up 10% of that, 10 patients from that in the course of the month, I would think that would be beneficial.
Right, and that's something that's very promising with that, because that's where we got most of our patients was from somebody that you talked about, the person that knows everybody and knows our issues. So we have a friend that did that for us, and she brought me into the chamber. She brought me into the leads group. She introduces me to all of her friends, and she's been an amazing friend and asset in the business. And
wonderful.
So, but yeah, as far as the influencers goes, we talked a little bit about maybe ambassadors and things like that, to where they come in, they get some care every once in a while, and then they post on social media about what they received, like, share, and things like that. We've also, another thing that we thought about, I just remembered, a thought was like kind of a giveaway. So you come in, you get 5 entries. You send in a new patient, you get a certain number of entries. But you also have to like and follow our page on Instagram.
Absolutely.
And so you like and follow, and then visits in the office gets entries. So but using local businesses, like get a gift card to Joplin Avenue Coffee, or Bearded Lady, or Chaos Brewery.
Sure.
Or, just some of these nice local places where we're also benefiting
Absolutely.
And promoting
Very good.
Other local stuff.
So how can we encourage someone who has never been to a chiropractor? Maybe because they're scared or skeptical. Can they go in and just visit with you? And they said, literally just asking for a friend, LOL.
Literally just asking for a friend. Yeah. I've seen quite a few so far that haven't been to a chiropractor before, and I make sure that I explain every single little thing as we go along. And so if somebody wants to come in and see the office, I am more than happy. I mean, my office it's a small office, it's 2 treatment rooms, it's pretty, it's a very neat office, and I am very proud of it. So if somebody wants to come in and see the office and just talk to me, or I'm more than happy to do that. And just kind of introduce, show them what I do, some of the different things around the office. That's something, and then that kind of leads to another idea that we had, is where we have kind of a meet the doctor nights, or like just come by, or maybe on a third Thursday type of thing.
Absolutely.
Where we put a sign out pointing 1 block off of Main Street, like, hey, walk 1 block over to our office, see our office, and and have some prizes there. But that when somebody sees what I do, and I get to explain, so what do you do here? But yeah, if somebody has never been to a chiropractor and is scared, it's not what you see on YouTube. It can be, but there's some things on YouTube that I will never do, and that just aren't safe for patients. But there's multiple ways to treat patients, and every person responds differently to the treatments. Now, I'll put an educated guess towards what they're going to respond to best, based on what they've told me. But if somebody's not comfortable with me adjusting their neck, well, then chances are they're not going to get as much of a therapeutic benefit from that, just because of the mental aspect. So I don't adjust their neck in a traditional way, or I talk them through it and we make them comfortable. But I'll never force something on somebody if they're not comfortable with it.
And I don't know if they're planning on starting these up, but downtown Joplin used to do the Friday wine.
Oh yeah, the first wine share.
Yeah, the wine share. So I don't know what their plan is, but that may be someone worth reaching out to get, because since you guys are in downtown Joplin.
I lease from them. So, well, not the downtown Joplin Alliance, but the group construction, which is very integral with that. So yeah, that's been something that we've talked about. And I don't know when they're planning on starting that up, but I assume with the start of third Thursday again, that we're going to start seeing that soon again. And I'm hoping, because that's kind of like their starship right there, is their building that we'll all be able to take part in that.
So big ask opportunity. If you can ask anybody that's going to be following and that can comment back to Aaron today, or ask anyone that's in the room here live today, what would be your big ask that we can help you with today before you walk out of the room? Other than obviously you'd like more patients, but what's something that we can help you with today that can actually project that forward?
So, well, just some good marketing ideas. Maybe something that's a little bit different, maybe something that will help put us in front of people's eyes, because we're always looking at the screen. So maybe what are some things that are going to help us as a small business get on those screens? And how do we take this advertising to the next level, from where I was to where I'm not getting anything, to where, even if we're getting 1 or 2 patients out of it, then, what are some new ideas of what we can do?
Okay, Aaron, any feedback there from our comments?
Not yet.
So just some additional thoughts. So like I talked about the area chambers. Any large room networking event, I would encourage you to get in front of as many people as you can and have that linchpin. But also, the leads groups is pivotal, because just like the Joplin leads groups, your leads group that you mentioned, if you've got a dozen people that you can meet with face to face twice a month, this is a captive audience.
Yeah.
If I'm in pain, who am I probably going to call? I'm going to call the person I formed a relationship with.
Right.
But I think, taking that next step of what I always tell people is, just because you're in a room and you speak that every other week doesn't mean I'm always going to call you. Build a relationship outside the room. So I would say take that one-on-one opportunity. So if you've got time in your schedule, which right now you told me you did, I would look at that and say, okay, from these 12 people in my leads group, I'm going to do a one-on-one with them at least every other month. This person gets me face-to-face. Same thing with Rotary. I would look at your 40 people in Rotary and say, how soon can I get a face-to-face with everybody in Rotary so they get to know me? You might have another chiropractor in your Rotary, but if I can build a relationship, what's going to separate me? Because I can tell you, a lot of chiropractors here are not practicing acupuncture. It's very difficult to find an acupuncturist in Joplin, Missouri, so you've already found something that's going to make you unique, I can tell you. So broadcasting that message consistently through those one-on-one conversations. As far as on-screen efforts, I think you're already doing a lot of that by talking about your influencers, doing some videos. Stories is big on Facebook and Instagram. You can link your Instagram to your Facebook. I'm sure you're aware of that, and it can broadcast simultaneously. So And even too, for like your younger demographics, don't be afraid to tap into Snapchat and do some fun things with Snapchat and do some boomerangs back and forth. You know, do some things that's going to cater to the younger audience, but at the same time, you've got, you know, a lot of your 25 to 35s are migrating to Snapchat, so don't be afraid to utilize that.
We haven't thought about Snapchat yet.
It's you
I mean,
know,
I use it.
yeah, I use it, and where TikTok is fun stuff, do the
Yeah.
dancing and stuff like that. Keep doing that, but Snapchat's more like some real time stuff that you can also do as well. And it's not as planned as TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So can you tell us one more time, like what your hours are, where you're located?
Great. So we don't have great signage in the building. We're working on that. However, it's on the front door. So when you turn onto Joplin Avenue off of 2nd Street, it is the second building on the right. You'll see Trader's Church, and I am just above Trader's Church. Even though I'm upstairs, it's completely ADA compliant. We have an elevator, 0-step entrance, handicap parking, but I'm just above Trader's Church. You'll see my sign on the door there, or you'll see Suite 4 Active Health Chiropractic. And as soon as you come up the stairs, or as soon as you get out of the elevator, I'm pretty much that first door you see.
Closing questions or comments from the room?
Set hours or just by?
Oh, hours. Yeah, so right now I see patients from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, except for on Friday mornings, I'll start at 1 p.m.
Okay, great.
Anything else from the room or from our comments today?
Not that I'm seeing.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us today. And once again, as we close up today, we want to thank Dr. Austin Jones and from Active Health Chiropractic, rather, and that is acthealthchiro.com.
Yeah, ACT Health Chiro.
Make sure to log on to schedule a visit, or as he said, he's always in his office. If you want to pop in and say hello, if he's not with a patient, he would love to offer you a free consultation just to get to know him, find out a little bit more about what makes you different, and maybe is chiropractic good for you? If you're struggling with headaches, backaches, shoulder aches, or allergies, I know that's a big thing, is that you can help with a lot of things beyond pain. So if there's some things that are happening, like you mentioned, gastrointestinal and some babies earlier and things like that, if you've got questions, stop by and see him. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to have that conversation. Once again, we want to thank all of our sponsors today. Southwest Missouri Bank for always being a great partner with what we do with 1 Million Cups. Obviously, the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce. We're here broadcasting live today from one of their meeting rooms. We want to thank the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce for making this possible for us today. Also, Mike Wiggins and Granny Schaefer's. We want to thank Granny Schaefer's providing our coffee every week to keep us caffeinated while we make connections. With that said, we want to let you know that next week we will be live once again at 9 a.m. at the Advanced Technology and Training Center, right across the street from the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce. Make sure you show up early. People have been coming about 8:15, 8:20 every Wednesday morning to connect while they get caffeinated. Come and join us for coffee and connections next Wednesday morning between 8:15 and 8:30. Feel free to show up early. Meeting starts at 9 if you are interested in presenting. Hit that little message link. Aaron would be happy to reconnect with you to get you scheduled for a presentation. Without further ado, we want to say thank you for joining us live and virtual. If you've enjoyed this today, do me a favor, before you leave, will you hit the like and share? We want to let people know that 1 Million Cups is happening. And if you want to have the opportunity, just like Dr. Jones said today, to share to a great audience. We've been very blessed with a phenomenal live audience of people that are going to give you great feedback, and we want to get connected to help you grow your business very, very quickly. Without further ado, my name is JD Buckridge, one of the organizers here at 1 Million Cups Joplin. Signing off. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.